So, hi everyone. We're here today to look at two really interesting devices that I happen to have here that are also very similar, although slightly different. And what I have here on the right hand side here, I've got the Motorola Moto X. This is a developer edition. And on the left, I have got the Motorola Moto G, which happens to be a 16GB model. Different devices, they've got quite different internal specs, but they're really similar in the way they look. I've opened them up at the developer options just to show that both of these devices have had changes to their animation scales to set them to half times, which is why they'll look and feel snappier than some Android devices. It's just something I choose to do. And it's quite a nice little trick to actually get Android devices feeling just that tiny little bit faster if you find that the animations are a bit jerky on your device in particular. Other than that, the devices are set up exactly the same. You've got the same apps, same accounts running, slightly different battery levels, but beyond that, the only other difference here is that the Moto X doesn't have a SIM card in, and the Moto G does. And the idea is I'm going to open a couple of different apps at the same time. My fingers are going to block the screen, but we'll get the idea. And we're going to see which one is faster. Also of interest, just before we begin, both of these devices have their screen brightness set to auto. And they're obviously in the same room. So you can see just how much brighter the AMOLED screen on the Moto X is, but you might also be able to tell that the colour reproduction on the Moto G is much, much nicer. Okay, so we're going to start with Chrome. I've set Chrome up with no open tabs, so we'll see how we get on. You can see that it's near enough identical. Impressive from the Moto G. Also, just about the same going home. Second app is going to be my favourite Twitter app at the moment, Robird. So, let's see how we do here. You can see there that the Moto X is marginally faster. They're actually at slightly different points in the timeline, but the Moto X is marginally faster. But it's very, very close. Let's open up Google Maps and see how each of these devices gets on. And in fact there you can see that the Moto G actually gets there quite a bit ahead of the Moto X, which is really surprising. The final app we'll just open up is the Play Store. Moto X won out very, very slightly there. Again, it's marginal, and if we repeated all of these tests, you'd probably get slightly different results. So let's just go back home, go into the multitasking, and I'm actually going to clear the Play Store. The multitasking was empty at the beginning of this test. I made sure of that. And we'll do the Play Store test again just to see if the result is the same. So I have found it to be quite different over a few times of trying this out. Oh, the X has won that out very, very slightly. But they really are very, very close in terms of performance. Should we open up the camera? It's not going to be very exciting on the viewfinder, but let's have a look and see what happens. So they are both ready to capture at the same time. And it would appear that the X has got a significantly faster capture. I'm not sure the G's actually captured at all. No, I had to interact with it again. So the X did much better on the capturing, but the opening much faster. Let's just clear this down on both devices. Excellent. And we'll just do the Play Store one more time with absolutely nothing else running in the background app-wise. And you can see that time the G got there faster. They do tend to swap positions, particularly with the Play Store test, as I've been preparing for this little video. But how similar? This device is, I believe, $500 for a 16 gig version in America. Obviously you can't get it in the UK. The Moto G, I bought this device for £129 from Tesco. It's a 16 gig model. It's £99 for the 8 gig model. So it's a significantly cheaper device. It's got lower specs, despite being a quad core. It's actually a quad core 1.2 gigahertz, Snapdragon 400. The Moto X, is a dual core 1.7 gigahertz Snapdragon, essentially a Snapdragon 600 chipset. 2 gig of RAM in the Moto X, 1 gig of RAM in the Moto G. The Moto G for this test is running the stock Android 4.3 build that it comes with. The Moto X is running the stock Android 4.4 build that was pushed out over the air just last week to the developer edition device that I have here. So even with KitKat's enhancements, the Moto G is either matching it or in some cases just beating it out. So can you imagine what the G is going to be like with KitKat? It's just worth showing you all just how similar these devices are. You can see here, looking at the front, they are really very identical. There's really very, very little to choose between them. I'm just sitting in front of my monitor. It just shows a bit of extra light for me. This is the developer edition of the Moto X, as you can see. And you can see the buttons on the side here, the little slim silver buttons, power, rocker. The power is at the top and the volume rocker just underneath here. It's got a really nice kind of curved profile, sits very nicely in the hand. And then you've got the Moto G. Now I've got the white back on this, so it really looks very, very similar. It too has little similar silver buttons on the side, laid out exactly the same. Sits really nicely in the hand. And there you go, the two Moto devices. Really two brilliant bits of kit. And look out for my review of the Moto G and my more thoughts on the Moto X coming up over the next few weeks.